guys use the group chat? Oh, sorry.
Hello, welcome to Focus on Fantasy Romance. Yes, we use the group chat. Episode number 41, a podcast where we discuss books, genre, industry, and our geeky lives. I'm your host, Elle Klaus.
I'm A.R. DeClerc.
I'm Paulina Woods.
And today we have Camryn, is it Rhys?
Rhys.
Rhys, Camryn Rhys, and Krystal Shannon. They are co-authors of Moondbound books. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about what you do, and we'll start with Camryn.
Thank you guys for having us today. We're psyched. And I am an author. I write primarily paranormal romance, mostly with Krystal. Other than that, I don't do a whole lot other than write, because as you all know, it is an insane amount of work to do this. And yeah, I'm psyched to be here. Thanks for having us.
Krystal?
Hi. Thanks for having us here. We're really excited. I'm Krystal Shannon. Let's see. I quit my job to write full-time when my daughter was 5. Yep. So I've been doing it full-time for almost 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. And Camryn and I write paranormal together, as she said. I write contemporary under another name as well, but mostly I write paranormal. The contemporary is just for every once in a while. And I have a 7-year-old and a husband and 3 basset hounds. So that's me.
Sounds like a busy life. I have a husband and 2 children and a cat who hates me, so I can relate. So the Moondbound world is fairly extensive. So if a reader wanted to pick up at the beginning, where would they start? Because I noticed you have a whole series in somewhere Texas.
Yes. So the beginning of Moonbound is To Save a Mate. That's the very first book in the Von Brandt series. And so that kicks off the whole thing when we started the Somewhere Texas group project. Because there's 4 of us that write in that town. The other 2 ladies write straight contemporary cowboy western type stuff. And then we write the paranormal. So, okay. But that's where you'd start. You would want to start with To Save a Mate. And then there's 4 books in that series. And then that series spins off into the Moonbound series, which starts with The Werewolf Cowboy. And then we kind of went back to the Von Brandts and spun off again and started The Fated Mates of Somewhere, Texas. And then Camryn has a spinoff, The Witches of Whitewood, that's related to the world, but not to the Von Brandts, really, right?
We're like the spinoff queens. I think that's kind of what we do, apparently. Yes. We just keep on spinning.
Right.
We just love the town. We can't get enough of the town. So yeah.
Right, but if you've spent a lot of time creating this world, it makes sense that you would want to tell more stories within the world. How did the whole idea come about that 4 or 5 authors are going to write in the same town or the same setting? How did that happen?
Well, we actually had kind of a group, what we call a writer's co-op, where we initially got together kind of to support each other for marketing and all these different, kind of as a group of people. We met through actually networking connections. Like we had never met each other before. And we went to RWA Nationals in San Antonio in 2014. And we started dreaming up. And there were quite a few of us when we started. I think we initially
there were like 12 or 13 maybe.
And then we got down eventually to about 5 or 6 of us who really just were, on with each other. And then we kind of kept whittling down as people's platform changed. But it initially started out as authors needing support and co-marketing, and then we developed this town all together that we all wrote in as a continuity series, sort of similar to like a Kindle world almost, where like there's shared property and everybody writes related books. And then we have like 4 box sets of those books that are all related, and we write all those together.
Yeah, so you'll see a lot of our characters cross back and forth in each other's books.
Like cameos. So they're all romances, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And so do you notice that when you're writing, you have specific either tropes you like to hit, or you like you always have an alpha hero? Because I noticed you do werewolf shifters, and a lot of werewolf shifter books have an alpha male. And I listened to, what is it, the Smarty Pants? No. Well, I listened to the Smarty Pants book marketing podcast, but that's not what I was talking about. The Smart Bitches Trashy podcast. And they always say, what is your book catnip? But do you have a writer catnip, like some trope that you always find in your books, even if you didn't plan on it?
Yeah, we were just talking about this the other day. Oh my gosh. So apparently I really prefer, well, okay, so we haven't, do you want to tell them how we write the POVs? Like,
yeah, so so Krystal writes all the women as co-writers, like she writes all the heroines, and I write all the heroes. And so probably more than anything, we have consistent catnip that we write without thinking about it. Like, I don't think we intended to do this. But Krystal kind of tends to write the like super upbeat,
spunky, like, eccentric,
heroines who just like do crazy things. Like, I mean, they're like, I call her 50 Shades of Dharma, because it's sort of like from Dharma and Greg. But they're just really, they're fun. Like, her heroines are fun and they have a positive outlook. And I probably, well, Krystal can tell you what I write, since
she writes tortured, broody. Yeah, they've like been through the ringer. Yeah, sarcastic, definitely. They sound like dudes.
They sound like dudes.
They really do sound like dudes. Like, if you sat down in a guy's locker room, I'm pretty sure that's what you'd hear.
I think that would actually be a really great way to co-author a book, because you can get so ingrained in that one character's point of view. You don't have to switch gears, and it would just be more natural for your character to react to the external stimulus than switching gears. So yeah, like if I were to co-author, I think that's a brilliant way to do it. And so I'm going to pass the question over to Amy. She had some questions.
I do. I had a couple questions. So the first question is, what are special considerations that you have to make for being co-writers that you might not have to make if you were writing your own worlds by yourself?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, such a good question, because we fell into this on accident. I don't think if you had talked to us in 2014 that either one of us thought this would be happening. Or, I mean, not just that we would be successful, but that we would have paired up, because we were really good friends and we got along really well, and we liked each other's writing styles, but we just had never thought about it. And one of the considerations we didn't think about, which we kind of lucked into a little bit, or got pushed into maybe, is how different we each are from each other. Like, just personalities, we are so different, and we are different in complementary ways, but like not everybody is. And I think we would have known this talking to each other at first anyway, but we just happen to be like, I really like organization, for instance, and Krystal is happy to be organized, but is not like an organizer. So she doesn't dislike when I organize things, And so then I get to organize all the release dates and the platforms, and I tell her stuff and she tells me we can't do that, and then we change it, but
and then she goes through and changes all the pieces.
I do. But if we had 2 people like me or 2 people like her, we would not.
Oh, it would be miserable, I think.
It would be horrible.
Yeah. She really is like Greg to my Dharma.
Yes. That's so accurate.
That's totally going to be our thing now.
I know, right? Oh my God.
So it sounds like luck was at least a small part of the puzzle, because you came together and managed to work together well, which is something hard to do sometimes. For people who are forced to work together, their personalities clash. It's sometimes difficult.
And I really do attribute our success to our personalities really meshing.
Yeah.
So individually, I'm sure you each have your own processes for writing, and you touched on it a little bit, because it sounds like one of you is a little bit more plotsy and the other one's a little bit more pantsy. But do you have individual processes that you do when you sit down to write your stories, even though you're working together? Is there something that you prefer to do on an individual basis?
I will start on this, and then because I think we were just talking about this also. Our process was a lot different before we started co-writing.
Yeah.
Like how I would sit down to individually write a book was so different 3 years ago than it is today. And I have actually found that the way that I approach writing now has changed to be more like what we do together. Because I think it works so well, because I think we cover a lot of bases. And for me, when I sit down to approach the process, I start with character. I mean, and so does Krystal, but like we start with character 100% of the time now. And we really, and there was a great workshop at RWA where Damon Swade was talking about verbs, like character verbs. And I feel like that's a lot what we do is we try to figure out what's the core of who this person is and how does it conflict and complement who the other person is. And then we build the entire story around that conflict and then complement.
Yeah, same thing here. I don't write at all like I used to write before me and Camryn got together to co-author. I definitely was a pantser. I'm a plotsner now, probably. I just actually had to beg her to organize my plot for my new book that I just started, because I actually couldn't start writing until it looked like it was supposed to look when we write a book together. And I don't know if that was just a psychological, like, I don't know. I just looked at it and I was like, well, it's not ready yet. And I just couldn't start writing. And so I did. I begged her to organize my spreadsheet, because I'm not I like organization, exactly like she said, but I don't do it very well.
Do you give yourselves a specific amount of time in which start a book, end a book when you're co-writing?
Yeah, we have a schedule, like a word count for each day that we have to meet. So
yeah, because we have to trade back and forth in order to make the release schedule that we've set. We have to trade back and forth a lot. And so I mean, we have, like, Krystal will plan her week out because she homeschools. So she'll send me a schedule of like, here's what we have planned. And I'll say, okay, here's where we're going to meet, here, here, and here. And here's where we're going to write, here, here, and here. And then we just know how many words we're going to get done that week. And then we do it. And it works really well for us because of how we're wired. But yeah, we definitely, like, we know exactly how many words we can produce and how long it takes us to do it.
And we both get up like before the butt crack of dawn to write. Like I do most of my work before my daughter is even awake.
Yeah.
So that, that's my writing my writing day is before breakfast.
Mhm.
And then if I get some more writing done in the afternoon, that's kudos for me, but it's not like really required unless we're on like a super tight deadline. And then I find a time to squeeze it in.
Yeah.
Do you think that co-writing makes you more accountable as an author? Because I know we've said this many times before in our group chat that we have, but I would suck at being a full-time writer. I would suck at being someone who is a work from home person, because if I don't feel like doing it, I don't feel like doing it, and I'll watch Netflix. So like I do make myself write every day, but you know, I don't set myself like a word count goal. I might set one for the week if I'm on a deadline or whatever. But I think if I was co-writing with someone, it might make me more accountable for my productivity.
It really does.
I definitely, because you know you have to give it to that person or you've just messed up the whole week.
Yeah.
Like if you don't get your chapter done and back to them, then they can't start and you're like, oh, okay.
Plus, I think even though, like, Krystal's introverted, I mean, like, personality-wise, she's introverted, but we're both real social. Like, even though we're kind of introverts, we're really social. So, like, having her read what I wrote is really exciting, you know, because it's like, and that's part of what drives me to get the words done and turn it into her is like, oh my God, she's never going to believe what I just did today, you know? And then I sit and watch her on Skype and I'm like, okay, when is she going to get to it?
Well,
oh
and
my
we
God,
do that,
you know?
Yeah, we do that with our individual books, like our own platform books too.
Yeah.
So like I wrote a chapter, you know, and like, okay, I need you to read this and see what you think. It's not just with our co-authored books that we go back and forth and read. We've literally I think our careers just kind of went like this.
They did. Yeah.
So I know everything's not always, you know, comes out smelling like roses. So tell other authors interested in co-writing what challenges they might face.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay, go for it.
Because I think yours will be different than
You'll
mine.
probably hit everything. Well, yeah.
So for me, I think the biggest challenge is that if you really like the person and you become really good friends, like if there's a whole different set of challenges if you hate each other or like, you know what I mean? Like I can't even talk about that because I've never had that experience. And I've co-written with 3 other people and I liked all of them. But it's been different with Krystal because like we're also really good friends. And so part of the difficulty sometimes is setting aside the friendship and like forcing yourself to do the work, because it's really fun to sit on Skype and talk about the industry, and it's fun to plan what you're going to do with your books, but then you got to write the book. And so that's a really big challenge for me, being an extrovert, being a talker. Like I like the talking.
She's a verbal processor.
Oh, I am. And sometimes it's like that was a big push forward for me on one hand, because then I had somebody like an office mate almost to talk with, but then it became a big like we have to catch ourselves about it. Like, okay, it's time to, you know, stop talking.
Camryn, stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop. Process later.
Yeah. So that's mine.
Yeah. My biggest challenge, gosh, it's probably just juggling it with my life, because I homeschool and I'm married and I have a big family who all live around here, and so there's just a lot going on. And so I hate schedules. I have always hated schedules my entire life. I think that they're evil. But when I had to get on a schedule, I'm disgustingly productive. And so I'm on a schedule, and everything has to be on a schedule. And Camryn and I are on a schedule, and we do the best when we're on a schedule. And we're like, okay, we're going to meet Monday night and Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday night and this afternoon. And, you know, like she was talking about, because I send her a screenshot of my calendar. My entire life is on my iCalendar. And if it wasn't, I wouldn't get anything done anymore because I have too many things to do. I think that was the biggest challenge for me, because I always existed without a calendar. Like no calendar. Like there might have been one of those Disney monthly calendars hanging in my kitchen that said, "Hey, somebody's birthday is on this day." That's about as far as I went with a calendar. And so now my day is divided up into 15-minute intervals. So like I have everything on my calendar. And it's wonderful. And I don't hate schedules anymore.
She's only saying that to make me not feel guilty. No, I'm kidding.
But I can't. I tried planners and I just couldn't do it.
No.
I would write in a planner for like a week or two and then be like, trash. But I do really well with the iCalendar because it's always with me. So I know that if I write it down, then it'll be on my computer, it'll be on my laptop, it'll be on my phone, it'll be on my big computer, it'll be on the iPad. Like wherever I put it, it'll show up everywhere, and I won't lose it. And some stupid paper planner, I was forgetting things, and things would get written down, and some things wouldn't. And yeah, so I'm an iCalendar. Digital. It has to be like on everything. But that was my thing, learning how to do that.
So I'm going to pass it over to Paulina, but I did have one more question that popped up when we were talking about working together. What happens if you hate what the other person has done? You guys talk about how much you love what the other person wrote, but do you find it difficult because you are friends to say, this just doesn't work for me, or I don't like this, or does it always flow and that's not a problem?
I'm pretty sure Camryn lucked out with me because I'm pretty flexible as far as if she feels like something needs to get changed. We talk about it, and I'm like, most of the time, I don't have a problem with it. Every once in a while, I think we've argued about something. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem to happen too often.
No, it rarely happens.
Yeah, and
we kind of made a rule at the beginning, like, you know, she's the female character and I'm the male character.
Yeah.
And
it has to be pretty big for us to argue about it.
It does. And it usually is that either I'm not seeing something or she's not seeing something, or like there's something that didn't make it into the text that she knows in her head. And it's so I will say, like, I don't remember a single time when either one of us wrote something that the other person hated. And I mean, like, could not stand. It was horrifying, you know, whatever.
Yeah, no.
Usually it's like, oh, I don't think she would do that. Or, yeah, we can't.
Or say that. Usually there's every once in a while, there's some dialogue that we change. And it typically is because we wrote the other person's character and talking. And they're like, that's not how they would say that. And so we change the dialogue. So we do kind of do that every once in a while. But that again is because we're writing the other person's character. So yeah, I think we really ironed out the ownership thing, you know,
early. That was
early.
One of the very first things.
And it definitely helps because I know not all co-authors like split POV. Like they just kind of write together. And I can't even imagine trying to do that. I would be so frustrated.
Yeah. I couldn't either. But because we made that rule, like when it comes down to it, if it's a girl character, I have to let her do, if we disagree to the point where we can't reconcile, like she owns those girls and I own those dudes, and that's the end, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
It is.
All right, Paulina, it's your turn.
Hi, Paulina. Yay. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, so just so you guys know, at one point, I went to school for journalism.
Oh, cool.
So as you guys were talking, I have 1, 2, 3 pages.
Nice.
But I won't ask you all those questions.
Oh, go for it. I'm here all night.
It was funny. Like you guys were talking, I'm like, okay, I gotta stop at one point. No, let's see. So, just you know, because we all want to know. What steps did you take to become full-time? So I know you said, like to go from working where you know you're going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks to where you're like, I might get a paycheck every month.
My situation was a little bit different because I do have a husband who has an income as well. So I only had to make like a certain amount of money for us to actually make our bills. And I had been writing previous to actually staying home and was already making enough money that I knew we would, as long as it stayed consistent and I continued to grow, like we were going to be okay. Because I had already, the 2 series that I had been writing had already taken off enough that I was making a consistent paycheck. So that was, staying home was still like a leap of, like a leap of faith. And I did not, because I taught in public school. I was the elementary teacher. It took me 2 years before I made up my income, my salary that I made at the ISD. It was a lot of work. It really was. I wrote, so I used to be a night owl, and I pretty much would write probably 5 or 6 hours a night and then go to bed and sleep in. And but now I get up in the morning and I'm so much more productive that way. But I did that because I didn't want to miss time with my husband or time with my baby. And so they would go to bed and then I would be up. So that was a sacrifice that I made to get to a point where I needed to be. And now I figured it out with my scheduling that I do a lot better, score for scheduling.
Yes.
That I am more productive, and I switched from being a night owl and being up until 3 o'clock in the morning to now I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and write until breakfast, which is about 8. And then I do other stuff. Like I do the businessy stuff during the day. I don't know. I mean, really, it was a leap of faith, and knowing that I, as long as I wrote a good book and I did some basic marketing, like I was going to be okay. I had a good editor. I have a fantastic cover designers. Like I didn't skimp on actually putting out a really good product, and that matters. It really does matter. So
yeah, I had a different experience because I'm not married, and so I couldn't rely on somebody else's income. I had to make my own income, and yeah, I'm like, it is such a different experience because the decision about when to go full time and when not to is very similar, but the surety I think is probably a little bit different. Like so what happened with me was I actually had that choice taken away from me because I got downsized at work, and so I had a severance package. And so I was like, okay, I have got to kill it and try to make as much money as I possibly can make right now, because I had been writing while I was working full time, and that was killer. Like, yes. And I'll say almost everybody I know that's made the jump has had those 1 or 2 years where they're still writing and they're still working full time, but they're kind of almost writing full time too. So like there were those couple of years, but for me, I had gone down to part-time after my first series had come out because it did so well, financially. So I had gone down to part-time, but I kept my part-time job, and then I got downsized, and then I just decided like I have to work as hard as I can work and try and make this income up, and then I did. And so I continued to not get a job back, at my previous job. But I will say, like, the best decision that I made, I think, was stepping down, like was stair stepping, instead of going from full-time to 0, was like going from full-time to part-time and then semi-part-time, because then I knew if I needed to go back, I could,
Yeah, that's kind of where I am. I'm like, I want to go bartending so I can go drop down to part-time. And then I have way more time to write, but I still have that little, that cushion that you kind of need.
You do need it. You do. It's necessary. And Camryn's really right. Like there's that time that you pretty much just have to work your tail off.
Yep.
Doing both full time to where it starts to shift.
Yep.
And you just have to figure out your schedule.
I'm seeing a little shift right now.
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
good.
Come on, keep growing.
It'll grow. It'll grow.
I'm like, I don't want to work anymore, people. Come on.
I know, right?
I gotta go.
Man, I'm telling you, once you don't have a boss anymore, it's like, yes.
Yeah, but
Great.
then you realize you got to be your own boss.
I
That's
know,
hard,
you do.
too.
You kind of have to the co-author thing, or even having some author buddies. Like I know a lot of authors who have author buddies, and they get on Skype and they write together at certain times. Like they have an office, they have office hours, and they get on and they work together, and it keeps them accountable. And they're constantly. So I know several different little groups who are either pairs or 3 people. They're usually pretty small. Like it's not usually a bunch of people. And I know that they say that really helps them. Yeah. Because otherwise you're always just alone.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I'm like the opposite, because I would cry if I had to quit my full-time job.
I wouldn't.
Because writing became, you know what I mean? Like if it became more lucrative than my full-time job, then I would be sad. Because then I'd have to choose between writing and my full-time job.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a hard decision no matter which side of the fence you're coming from.
Oh, totally. I mean, mine was actually great because then I got to be a full-time mom and a full-time writer, and so I really was not attached to my job.
Well, I have a dog and a cat, so I'm good. I can quit my job.
I know, right?
I don't care. Okay, so who created Somewhere Texas? I was like, taxes? Wow, okay.
Some taxes. But we all did, all 4 of us.
Yeah, the 4 of us.
All together. Like we literally would sit on Skype and talk about the town and talk about, like, if I had my camera on, I could show you. I have the maps on the wall that we drew, literally, of like the downtown and the area, and like
we named restaurants, named businesses. We have the street names. Like we have we have the whole town developed. Yeah. And then each of us kind of picked some spots or some families in the town to start with. And so I wrote the Von Brandts, which were the werewolves.
Going on the note, just back to the map that you said you draw, because I kind of need to do one. How did that go about? Like, did you, like, when you guys met up and you guys, one person draw, or did you guys send out for it?
So
Becca made it.
Yeah, we kind of talked about what we wanted it to look like, because we actually had a town in Texas that we based somewhere on. So we kind of talked about, like, okay, this is what the town looks like, and it has a river here and that kind of stuff. And then literally I just went and said, okay, I'm just going to make, there's the kitty.
He shows up once in a while.
I said, I'm just going to make these maps, and we had already talked about all these businesses, and I made all the maps empty except for the stuff that we'd already named, like the high school and stuff. And then we filled all the maps in together, and then I made them at different levels. So like you can see at the 10,000 foot level, at the 5,000 foot, at 1,000 feet. So you get to see closer,
like the highways. So the farther away, like we can see the highways and the farms and the ranches.
Do you guys actually use a program, or do you do this freehand?
So I use Pages, I think.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And I mostly did it like freehand on Pages, in the sense that I didn't use like a map making program, which I probably should have. It would have been easier. But that's the organizer in me. Like I need to see where everything is so that I know how it relates to each other. So I probably would have done the maps anyway.
And then as we wrote books, we just kind of claimed buildings.
Yeah.
Pages is the Mac equivalent of Microsoft Word.
Well, kind of.
I'm like, I have a Mac.
Yeah.
So Pages should have come with it.
Probably.
Yeah. But it has a lot of drawing, like you can do drawing and move shapes around. It's super easy to do that in Pages and not in Word. Like you can't do that kind of stuff in Word.
Yeah.
But Pages is really great with the art stuff.
Yeah, I can make squares. Like I just made a bunch of squares mainly, and then we made streets, and I made buildings, and it's really cool.
I'm gonna have to do that one. Okay, so how you said that you guys write? There's paranormal and contemporary, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So in this town, do the contemporary writers not know that the paranormal exists, but the paranormal know that the contemporary exists? How do you make those two meet? Because some people who read paranormal, well, most paranormal will read contemporary, but most contemporary won't read paranormal.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
don't know that they're werewolves. Like the contemporary people, they don't know. It's a secret.
But they
So the
know they're
werewolves-
humans. The
Yeah.
human version of the shifters, they show up all over the place. Like
Yeah,
one of
they're-
them's the
yeah.
sheriff.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, so then, but the shifters know that so you guys have to actually keep it in. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Just like, how do you do that? Because most contemporary won't read paranormal.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah,
and the contemporaries you can't tell. Only the paranormal readers who jumped over and read them, and then they're like, "Ooh, there he is, and he doesn't know." Ha ha.
Yeah.
You know, like they know who the
Okay.
character is, but they don't expose. Like the werewolves don't get exposed in any of the books.
Yeah, like
Except
the
their own.
paranormal- The shifter sheriff, who's like, Alan is the sheriff.
Yeah.
Alan Von Brandt. He has like the ability to interrogate people that's a little bit better than your average human. And so all the contemporary people just equivocate that with like, oh, well, he's just really smart.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
He's just
And you're
really
like,
good.
"Ha,
He's just
a
really good."
werewolf,
Yeah.
It's funny.
Okay, one more. You kind of touched on this one a little bit, but Krystal did. But I want to see, what do you contribute to your success? And I know, yes, a great book cover, but there's like marketing or sometimes it is dumb luck. Unfortunately, some people just have that. But what do you contribute? What do you guys each, separately or together, contribute to your say that this is what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for us, it was writing what the market wanted. Like I kind of hate to say it that way because it's not like we didn't analyze the trends and then say, oh, hey, we should write this because this is what's trendy. We both really love werewolves. Like we love shifters. I would be writing that anyway. But we definitely analyzed, like, especially the later we got in our series, like, what are readers liking and not liking about certain kinds of books? And instead of trying to say, what's the word? Like, oh, those stupid readers, why can't they just see how great this book is that doesn't fit into any market at all? Because the reality is
that was
readers
why
like
my
what
first
they
book
like.
had the Greek gods in it, and nobody read
gargoyles.
that one.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, I mean, but there is a market for everything in the sense
yeah.
of like her mythology books have really rabid fans. Like they love them.
Yeah, they were so
But-
sad that I didn't keep writing it. But I was
Yeah.
like, literally 10 people. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't write a book for you.
but I do think that's the difference for me between being able to make the kind of money that we make and like we just both happen to really love writing shifters and alphas and that kind of stuff. But we like writing other stuff too. We just don't make as much money at that. And so like we focus on writing the things that we know are going to make money so that we can write the stuff also that we love that's not as lucrative, I feel like.
Don't write a standalone unless you're writing a thriller.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to tell one of our members to stop writing standalones, but she won't listen to us, so she just kind of goes,
Hey,
nah.
I have 3 series. I just don't particularly always feel the urge to finish them like right away. So I have writer ADD sometimes.
Okay.
Well, that's a great point actually too, because we started writing a different series this spring. Like, I mean, and not even Moonbound, not related whatsoever. And for us, and we loved it. And we had this conversation. We were like, we have a platform of people who love Moonbound and who can't get enough of those books. Are we shooting ourselves in the foot by breaking away from the series that we've already been writing? And we didn't have to do that because we could have kept doing both, but we decided to
ultimately we decided
for a while because we felt like what the readers were asking for was Moonbound. And like you said, I think it's a really different decision if you're not, if your whole life is wrapped up in I have to make a paycheck, then you can't afford to make the decisions of I want to write this. But if you're not, then you're totally free to do whatever you want. And I would say
I'm still in the pimply teenage stage of writing, so I'm trying to find myself.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Absolutely.
I have steampunk, I have fantasy, I have science fiction romance, I've written a contemporary. You know, I write what I like, I write the stories that I like, the characters that I like, and I put it out there. And it's all under, you know, the same umbrella, which is adventure romance. And I mean, like, steampunk is probably the thing I love the most, punk genres in general. But, you know, I just like to try out different things and like stretch my wings. And
when you can make money writing steampunk, like, and I'm convinced you can make money writing almost anything if you can write what the majority of readers want to read. Because, like, we have a friend who made $20,000 on one book in 1 month, and it's a steampunk book. Like, literally 4 months ago, you know? So it's totally possible.
I think punk genres in general are going to become more and more prolific, and more market savvy readers are going to know where to find them. Because of things like Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries and, you know, shows that come out that are steampunk-ish are really driving, I think, the genre. It's just a matter of visibility and getting people, you know, to the right place and where to find it. But yeah, I'm still in that searching for myself phase. And Pete has a question. She's waving her arms in the air.
She's like, wait.
Well, because I gotta get ready to go. I have to go visit my brother. But real fast, just on, I know you talked about, like, you know, you write in the morning, you do marketing. What do you find the most effective way of marketing? Like, I know a lot of people they swear by Facebook, or they swear by Twitter, or whatever else they have going on.
I've had a lot of success with Facebook ads. You have to be careful because that gets expensive really fast. So you really want to make sure that it really is working for you. And then really newsletter, email marketing, build your list, build your newsletter list. And
I would say marketing wise, it is not mentioned enough that writing a book the market wants is as much a marketing decision as any, like, active sort of advertising and promotion that you do, because what you want ultimately is for readers to talk about the book. And you know, I could throw statistics out because they exist about the, you know, viability of certain genres on certain platforms, and that's, I mean, it's worth knowing that stuff, certainly, but I feel like as writers, like, we understand what it's like because we're all readers. When we read a book that we can't not talk about, you know, then the fans do the marketing for us. And for me, that's the biggest shift in my marketing views over the last probably year has been, if you write a book that is so good, and I don't mean good like Hemingway, I mean like good for the readers. What is it that the readers you're trying to reach want? And understanding the reader market, that has been the best marketing decision that I've ever made before.
Okay. I'm good, Elle.
Yeah, so like a tip, if you're looking for like what the readers want, is, so if you say you want to write steampunk, then go find those awesome steampunk books and read the reviews. Read the reviews. Read the bad ones and the good ones. What did they like? What did they not like? And that's going to give you a really good idea of what the reader market wants out of that book.
Mm-hmm.
Then you build from there.
Yeah. Sorry. I was trying to pop in earlier, but my mouse was malfunctioning again, so I'm sorry. So we have a giveaway. We have Fated Wolf. Can you tell us a little bit about the story?
Okay, so Faded. This is the one I laugh at because we specifically wrote this because we're kind of planner nerds, and so we have a type A planner, heroine who is
she carries around her planners and her traveler's notebooks.
Yeah,
and
she's
all
so
of it.
adorable. But she is looking for her fated mate, and when she finds him, he is not what she expected.
Mm-hmm.
And he is, the classic sort of swashbuckler, bad boy kind of guy, jumps out of planes and all that stuff. But he's human. And so that's the really hard part for her, is that she has to, by her pack rules, marry a wolf. But fate, because in our books, fate plays a huge role. So like fate matches mates up, which is again why this series is called Fated Mates. But fate matches her up with a human, and she doesn't think that it's possible for wolves to mate humans. And so that's kind of the fated wolf storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And for a chance to win this ebook, you will have to leave a comment on this podcast post on focusonfantasyromance.wordpress.com. We'll leave it open for a month. So it should be September about 19th at 19-ish. Check a reply to the comment, though. That's how you'll be notified that you've won. So where can readers find you? What are your social media links?
I live on Facebook. So I'm really easy to find on Facebook. Otherwise, website is krystalshannon.com with 2 A's, and then Camryn,
over to you. So you can find us also. You can find me on Facebook. I think it's /Camryn Rhys at facebook.com. But we also have a fan group, the Moonbound Packs fan group. And that's probably the easiest place to find both of us at the same time, is because you can go there and everybody's talking about Moonbound, and you can find us. I'm also on Twitter because I like Twitter. Camryn Rhys, twitter.com/Camryn Rhys, and then our website, moonboundbooks.com.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. If you liked the podcast, please like, comment, and share. This has been episode number 41. Good night.
Good night.